So let me call out Mandeep Kaur, who is a strategic human resource leader in IBM. Um, and if I have to just talk about a couple of things about Mandeep, so I think these are the things which I will which say that she's the president of Gurgaon John of Delhi and NCR chapter of National HRD Network. She's also a member of Regional Committee on HR and IR, CII, Northern Region, India. And she's also a core committee member of Gender Equity Forum, United Nations Global Compact Local Arm, and Global Compact Network India, GCNI. She's a certified corporate director by Institute of Directors. So I think this is this is enough to describe Mandeep and an experience in this field. Mandeep will enlighten us today with her knowledge and experience in how she is how she thinks that organization can engage employees during COVID-19. So over to you, Mandeep.
Sure. Thank you, Govind. So, can you all hear me fine?
I
Is my
can.
sound
Yeah.
okay? Great. So, firstly, I want to thank HR Success Talks, Govind, Piyush, Rajshri, Rakhi, and of course Deepti for giving me this opportunity today to uh, be with my own. When I say be with my own, it is HR professionals, all of us. So, what Govind just shared is my voluntary contributions that I make to the industry. In addition to that, of course, there is the corporate experience, which is there, you know. Um, so you can connect with me if you type Mandeep Kaur IBM. You will get me on LinkedIn, and we can connect offline also. So the topic today is on employee engagement. Before I go into more details, let me share three instances of employee engagement in today's context that are very recent, um, very diverse. One is called happy hours. The other is called dancing to our tunes. And the third is age old Ludo. So I'll give you a little example or context of what I'm about. So, you know, some of the examples of managers engaging with their teams in current scenario where from home, it is a work at home model, and how to connect, how to engage, and not just about work. One of the man that I know, they follow something called happy hours. Now we all know what happy hours is. First time I heard about it, I was amused. I said, but there are no restaurants open. So how are you folks doing happy hours? So he said, it's very simple. Every Friday, after our work hours finish, on an hour of us with our preferred poison. It doesn't necessarily have to be hard. It can be a tall glass of cold coffee or a big mug of tea or coffee like Govind has right now. Uh, we just grab and all of us sit and we talk about everything else other than work, you know. So that's a good way of connecting, even though we are not there in person as such. The other one is dancing to our tunes. This is another group of people, of employees that I know, in which the millennials every Friday organize which includes their super bosses, and they choose the music. So then their bosses and the super bosses dance their tunes. It is very, very enjoyable. Everybody is very supportive, and it's brought about a different engagement together in front on a yoga mat, doing with the music some exercises, some dancing, etc. And the last one, the age-old Ludo, is something I'm sharing spread across all of India or even the world. They all play a game of Ludo and they play it online and they keep chatting side by side, deciding who's going to get after whom and, that kind of a thing. So this is very basic what I'm saying, but what really is highlighted here is how each of these aspects help in engagement. Now, this is on the lighter side. Now, let's talk about in today's context. What Corona has done is has brought about the biggest health crisis that typically most of us have seen the first times in our lifetimes, you know. But with it has also brought about the biggest business transformation that we are all a part of as such. Now, in this context, what really is there on the minds of employees if we see from today's context? In my opinion, there are four aspects that an employee today has topmost on his or her mind. One is related to financial security. That's important for everybody. The other is related to health and well-being. The third one is related to their families. And the fourth one is related to productivity and work. Now, these are the four areas which everybody is thinking about being employees in organizations. Now, in context of these four in the background, if we look at what really do we or as leaders need to ensure when we are focusing on employee engagement or keeping our employees engaged, I will keep this in the background and share what are my recommendations on this, please. The first one is, and I think it's the most important aspect, is protecting the employees, the personal financial security. That's most important. I know businesses are in different stages of transformation and the challenges which are going through, or even in questions about business continuity. And it varies from industry to industry, but from a perspective that I come from, these are the things that I would recommend. We should ensure that there is personal financial security that employees have, be it bringing forth a flexible benefit plan, bringing forth ensuring that they have paid vacation, because when you are working from home and you do not have boundaries of when to stop working, when to start working, because typically for some of the employees, this is the first time ever that they are in a scenario where they are working from home as such. Or even where there are situations where there may be scopes of jobs being at stake, giving that counseling, that guidance, it is very, very important that we support and we counsel from that perspective. That's the first and the foremost thing which needs to be, as HR professionals, that all of us need to look at. Having said that, the second one is, while we are expecting the employees to work from home, also ensure that when we are looking at personal productivity, the focus is on personal productivity, well-being, and also personal resilience. When you are working from home, there are some things that came to us as a surprise. So we need to ensure that employees have the following: be it the tools to be able to work from home, be it some guidelines or rules on how they need to, on how the meetings or the connects or the time offs and the breaks, etc., the rules which are related to work from home, the norms. the norms of how people work from home. And lastly, but I think it's most important, is the understanding that everybody is working from home. And I give a very simple example here. It is perfectly fine if an employee is on a video call and there is a child crying in the background, or if it is perfectly fine if, you know, there is a small child, or even a elder child who comes in the scope of the camera, because we've got to understand something. Everybody does not have home offices. I've been lucky because I was in global roles, etc. So you work odd hours. So I had a mandated home office ever since I've started working, mostly. But everybody is not having those areas where they can seclude and work from home. And it is also perfectly fine that it is a video call, but there might be some people who might not put on their videos because maybe it's an early video call, or a very late video call as such. We did a very interesting engagement exercise, and it was again a Friday, and all of most of the people had put their videos off, because that understanding that you might not want to put your video on is there. So we said, okay, let's suddenly, without any uh, notice, let's have everybody put on their video for 1 minute to see how you are today. And there were, you'll be surprised, there was one person who was sitting in the balcony and taking that call because the children are inside, they make noise. So he says, for me, the most peaceful thing is the balcony. The other person put on the video, and the sounds of bird chirping at the background were there. Well, he was sitting next to a bird cage that his sister has, birds that were kept. But those are realities today that we have to acknowledge and accept. So that's what I'm focusing on. The other aspect is to look at personal productivity, well-being, and also the maturity to understand that all are working from home as such. The third thing is the focus, which has also come today, is an improved culture of leadership and employee well-being focus. More than work, it is important to first know that the employee is safe and fine. And I'm very glad to say, in today's context, with examples which come forward in terms of what are the examples of companies ensuring that that is a priority, has really come forward very, very well. So empathy, resilience, caring, and ensuring safety of employees becomes more important. Hence, when we are looking at engagement, it's not just from perspective of um, employee survey or a manager feedback or other aspects. It's looking at wholesome an employee and understanding that in this situation, which is new to most of us, when we were in mid-March, could we have thought ever that we would be in the situation that we are in almost the past 2 months? No, we wouldn't have. Hence, it's new for everybody. So I think in that situation, care and understanding and patience is most important, because this is new for everybody, and this new may continue, nobody knows for how long. um, it has broken many paradigms, it has shifted many paradigms, and it will continue to do so. Last but not the least, I also wanted to share a perspective that what really has been seen is that productivity has improved, teamwork has improved, leaders have risen to the occasion, you know. So it has been overall While it is a situation which is because of a pandemic and how we are managing all this because of that. But overall, what I see is very improved leadership, culture, teamwork. I'll give you a simple example. The hard disk of my laptop crashed, and we were in the second week of the lockdown. And well, the offices are locked. There was nothing which could be done. I was very surprised to see my IT support, the couple of people who were given curfew passes and were allowed to move, be at office. Personally, typically what we do is we have the laptops couriered. There is a courier agency who will come and pick up the laptops and deliver it to their employees. While I was communicated that, the courier agency has been notified, the laptop is ready, you will get it as soon as the first instance that the courier agency can come. But I was very surprised. I just got a call on my mobile, and it was one of the IT support employees themselves saying, ma'am, just send us your location. And I assumed they wanted the location because they wanted to send it to the courier guy. To my surprise, it was the employee of the IT support department himself who came on a scooter to deliver my laptop. And when I asked him, I said, why did you come? He says, ma'am, I looked at the location map and looked at the distance of where I was and where your residence is. And it was just 20-25 minutes away. And I thought, you've been struggling. You need to have your laptop. You're going through a hard time. No online support is helping you. You need to get a new laptop. So let me make that extra effort and give you your laptop. That's the difference we see today. So these are little small steps which have helped us in this situation. Last but not the least is focus on learning. If you look at data today, more employees are focusing on learning. More employees are looking at what they need to do to enhance their skills. And it's not just related to their own skill set. There's also learning related to other aspects. And of course, we're going to be talking more about this in the webinar later. So those were some aspects that I wanted to share about not just employee engagement, but other aspects related to engaging employees in how we are in today's context. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very much, Mandeep, for this awesome insight. And honestly, the couple of things which you just mentioned, I think going to be good for me and my team. We manage the IT company in India and other locations in the world. And I think the two things which you have mentioned, something we can definitely leverage is the happy hours and dancing on your tune. Because based on this certain survey we did, people felt that we really did a great job in engaging our people, but somewhere we need to do more in connecting with employee with each other. And I think these two things definitely fits to that criteria. So some of my team members are already on the call, so hope they will leverage it and take it forward. And your perspective of how you have seen this pandemic, not only from the employee perspective, but considering their family, their well-being, and how this leadership, I love that example of how leadership has evolved in this time, and they started, supporting to people, and not just trying to be a typical manager here. So great insight. Thank you very much, and I think this group will definitely get benefited out of it. Which means that it is the time for us to ask certain questions to you and get your insights on those. And this is my personal question, so maybe we can start from there. So I think if I look at myself as the talent leader and other business leader, for me, closing the office, the decision to close the office was easy. Looks like the decision to open the office is becoming difficult now. And there are conversations happening that how do we go back to the work, like how that will look like, what will that be going to do with the employee engagement. Do you have some perspective to share with this group here?
Sure. Go and see. To be very honest, the lockdown was because we had to decide between lives are important or livelihoods are important. So we decided which was more important, hence the lockdown happened. Opening up of lockdown also has to be, and how we resume business and getting back to work also has to be based on taking a call on how much do we want to put at risk, be it employee safety, concern, or business. I think there is no formula or hard-coded algorithm that I can share, but I think it's what we've got to look at. The situation changes every day.
Yeah.
What we see today, when I put on the news tomorrow, it'll be different. And you cannot say after a week what the situation is going to be. So we are all learning, unlearning, emerging stronger, and taking decisions on the fly. So I think it is a balance between care, concern, safety, and rational business decision that we've got to take.
Thank you very much, Mandeep, and I'm sure this will be helpful. And we all should watch and wait and see how this situation goes, and we will take decision in the best interest of our employees and our business. We have one more question from Kamla Nagdali, and she's asking, during this pandemic and with work from home situation, it is very difficult for everyone to manage time. Do you have any tips for her?
Well, to be very honest, it is difficult because I know some of us are without help. Some of us have been have the whole household, everybody at home. So that is a lot of work, and I know for diversity, for women, it is more work sometimes. So I think it is important here to bucket your times into zones and say, this is when I do this. This is my space. This is my time, and adhere to it, because everybody else will take it for granted that you have the energy or the time to do whatever is expected. This is human nature. So sometimes you've got to enforce that aspect. And I know that sometimes it's frustrating. So I have an analogy that I always remind myself, which is called T, T, S, P, which means this too shall pass. You know, we are resilient, we are strong, and there is going to be enough and more happening at the end of this road. So this too shall pass.
Yeah.
I hope
Thank
that
you,
helps.
Mandeep. Yeah, thank you very much. So I would like to go to the audience here, and I would request if anybody has any question, please unmute yourself. Please be very brief to your questions and to the point.
I think I have an observation. So Mandeep, thanks a lot for Deepak here. Thanks a lot for sharing your insights. And I think, the example that you shared where your laptop crashed, it resonated really well with me, because exactly the same thing happened with my wife. The moment the lockdown started, her laptop crashed. And guess what? She sent an email to her employer. And the gentleman from the IT team actually, came and they restored the laptop right here, at the home. So I think what you shared is I think, a stalwart example of how organizations are also going out of the way, and they are, they are very quickly modifying the rules to ensure that the employees are comfortable, that they are safe, and at the same time, the productivity is also not hampered. So thanks a lot for sharing that, I think. It went, really well with you.
Most welcome.
Hi, hi Mandeep. This is Ashima. I would like to ask one question as you emphasized on first thing, that is the financial security to provide to the employees. But most of the organizations are ignoring this aspect, including if you talk about the education sector. How should we deal with it and how should we react to it?
See, as I assume you are a HR person, right? So, as an HR person, I think we have to ensure uh, that we manage all our stakeholders and we give our inputs or our perspectives to all of them. It has to be a balancing um, fact. So, there are businesses where there is a challenge in terms of business continuity. There are areas where you know you've got to look at that perspective also. There are areas where employee concern has to be the first. So it's a call, a decision which needs to be taken, keeping in mind all aspects. What I would recommend is at least share your thoughts, which is what we need to as HR persons do, and bring your perspective forth, which is important for us to do.
Thank you.
Mandeep, I'm going with Ashima that many organizations has been already raised some pickers and already some terminate some employee regarding this COVID-19 outbreak. So, as a HR person, what kind of initiative we have taken? Because management wouldn't be hear anything from HR, so they have decided on own way, but because their business is not going to there is some crunches going on, so some difficulties there management from taken. So what kind of step we are going to follow in this case?
So here, it's a good perspective. Thank you for bringing it forth. I think it varies. It varies from industry, organizations, and the situation that you are in. There is no one concrete rule which can apply, and regulations and statutory or directions are there to support. So I really will not be able to share that this is what needs to be done, because it is very dynamic as such, and it can vary from industry, organization, or the sector that we are in. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks.
Hi, Mandeep. Thank you so much for your very well presented pointers on the way of employee thinking on the financial, health, family, and productivity. So the question that is there with me from a very long time, from the lockdown period started, is the business transformation and the HR transformation that has to happen. So like a company which has not been work from home will start the HR people will start making up work from home policies immediately, and they'll start launching it. So existing work from home policies many companies might have, and I think we need to move ahead from work from home to work from anywhere, and that sort of culture has to come. So, what will be your key point to the companies who has already and work from home policies, and what they need to focus on specifically during this such pandemic and also in the future?
So, Rakesh, I think, yes, you're very right. For organizations which had never worked from home, the current situation has made everybody work from home. And I think we've gone through one big business transformation and technology transformation. People who had never accessed applications related to file sharing, to video conferencing, to chats, have them all, because that's the mode of interaction. That's the mode that everybody is using. Not just us, even school children. Everybody today is online, so there's a huge change in terms of the technology transformation that everybody has gone through. I think as we are moving or progressing, what organizations need to do is to look at what worked well for them, what did not, and then balance it and see what needs to be further improved and built in. Because as you rightly said, um, things are going to change. It's not, the new normal is going to be very different from what was normal before. We have been exposed to it, unfortunately, because of a pandemic, but we have been exposed to it. So the new normal is going to be different, and we have to relook at what norms or what policies do we need to have in place for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Mandeep, for answering these questions. I'm sure there are many people who wants to ask, but as a facilitator, I have to put these on hold for a while. There are some questions I see over chat which are not answered. What I would say is that we'll move on to our next one, and Mandeep is here. In the end, we will try to cover some more questions for her and take her opinion on that. By any chance, because of the shortage of time, we are not able to, we will take these questions and try to get back to you guys to answer those questions offline. I hope everybody will appreciate that, because we have to value everybody's time here. And we also have Deepak Sharma here with us, who is going to talk about the development of people during this time. And Deepak, if you allow me, I can share one thing, is that somebody says that if you are not spending your time on development of yourself at this point of time, that means you are making excuses earlier. You have enough time now to do whatever you want to, and still not going through various learning platforms like this, which is happening right now. That means you are actually making excuses. We have good amount of time. We can find time. We are saving time from the commute. So I think I'm very, very interested to know your views on this whole development of our employee and how we can do that during this pandemic. But before that, let me officially introduce you to this group. So Deepak is a Marshall Goldsmith certified coach, thought leader, facilitator, and learning strategist. He has been in the learning management space for the last 16 years and has been a facilitator, consultant, and L&D leaders in various organizations like Amazon and American Express, and has been rated as a specialist in his field. Deepak has shown strong working understanding of both short and long-term learning engagement, which align with the organization's core competencies and thus impact business priorities like growth, revenues, and learning ROI. Wow, that's an interesting one. The ROI is always catchy for L&D professionals. Deepak has executed learning projects in Six Sigma, way to eliminate performance inefficiencies in people and processes. What impressive profile in L&D, Deepak, and I'm sure that not only during this webinar, I believe after that also, maybe some of us would like to be in touch and you know, get something from your brain and try to implement in our organizations as well. With that said, Deepak, it's over to you. And let's start conversation on how can we develop our people during COVID-19.
Thanks, Govind. Thanks a lot, especially for the flamboyant introduction. I'm not sure, you know, if I truly deserve that. But first of all, a word of gratitude to you, Mr. Negi, for inviting me to speak and share my thoughts with all you lovely and experienced people. And I truly hope that all of you are you know, staying safe with your families in these testing times. The way I would like to go about sharing my views is I'll be sharing a couple of slides, which I'll, you know, start right away. Is there any option for me to share, Govind?
Yes, I think you will have a share screen at the bottom.
Yeah, I got that. Hope all of you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can. Perfect.
Fantastic. So the first one, you know, there are basically, you know, only two slides that I'll be you know, covering today. The first one talks about the new normal, which I think, you know, Mandeep has very well, you know, articulated and covered. And the second slide, you know, will be truly, you know, focused on the learning framework, which I hope, you know, is going to be very useful to everyone here. I think I have approximately 34 minutes in all to speak. I'll try to crunch all of this information within those 2 slides, and hopefully we will have some time for Q&A for me and for Mandeep also. But at the same time, I'll be encouraging you to share your inputs because there are going to be it's a rather lengthy discussion when it comes to learning strategy and how to really implement that during COVID-19. So I'll be taking your views and your questions as we move along to ensure that all of you are awake during the course of the webinar. Okay, all right, let's get started. The new normal. And the way I would like to start this is that imagine you are one of those strange people who enjoy going to work. May I know who all of you enjoy going to work and have not been able to and been missing the office?
I do a little bit.
Yes, good to know, Govind. So imagine what the world is for those, who are working through COVID-19, unable to go out, sitting in one corner with your rather boring laptop, unless you are listening songs on it or watching YouTube, avoiding every bit of noise, hawkers selling vegetables while you are presenting month-end dashboard, pressure cooker whistle, utensils being dropped in the kitchen. And if you're small kids, then you are absolutely done, especially, like you have toddlers like mine who want to eat your laptop and grab your phone, then you are certainly done. It is frustrating. So your thoughts at the moment, well, it was always better in the office. But let's wake up to the reality. This is the new normal. And everyone is okay about it. Like Mandeep also mentioned, everyone should be okay about the background noise. You sitting in a t-shirt, you haven't taken bath, that's absolutely fine. You want to eat and present, even that's absolutely okay. No judgments passed. And this is life these days. This is the new normal. And when I say with this new normal, there are quite a few things, which around us are changing. And why I would like to, first of all, focus on what is really changing around us is because that has a lot of bearing on any learning strategy that you create. If you ignore the environment in which people are placed today, then I'm afraid you will not be able to come up with a very, very robust people development plan. So let's look at, what is changing around us. And I'm going to make a statement. And the first statement is that there is no difference these days between a local and a global organization. And I'm making a statement which may sound, a little strange to you. People say that my organization is operating in 50 countries and is operating in 150 countries like mine. But how does it matter? One thing which COVID-19 has done is made everything local. Okay, you have technicians, you have laptop technicians coming to your home. You see, everything has turned virtual now. Even if you are in the same city, you are still connecting virtually. So how does it matter if you're talking to someone in Delhi or Dallas? Therefore, the learning strategies that you can take up now can be seamlessly applied to all the people in your organization really fast. And it doesn't have to be just LMS or online courses, because we already have a lot of that from various sources. And EQ is critical more than ever because business transaction volume has gone down. There are more people to do the same job. What does it mean for people? For one thing, it means that people are asking one question a lot more than ever. Am I safe in this job? What about my salary? Fear and anxiety is overtaking creativity and trust in organizations. So at this time, I don't think it's all about IQ. It's about EQ. So do we as leaders understand our people emotionally and not rationally is more important these days? How we as leaders behave right now will set our image for good. Communication is the key. People want to know what's going on around them. They are curious about how the business is going to turn around. Everyone wants to know when are the offices going to open, like you mentioned, Govind, at the outset. And when they want to know, they talk, right? Mostly to their peers rather than their leaders, because they're more comfortable, talking to their peers. And what happens when people are concerned and they want to talk? It's a dangerous combination sometimes because it often leads to rumors and fear mongering within the organization. So no matter how much people hate to hear bad news, but sometimes they love to gossip about it, which in my view, you don't want that in this time of crisis. Give them a forum to talk and connect and ask you questions. It's better that people question rather than stay under a cloud of fear, because questioning wouldn't really bring down their productivity, but fear and mistrust will. And something which I think has already been talked about a lot: work-life balance. When people work from home, they're not just working. They can't just be working. They are obviously taking breaks in between. They spread out their works. They get up late. They sometimes chat with their kids. They take power naps also. So working from home is now different from working from office. And there are distractors around, and all of us need to live with those. And the picture, in fact, I want to share one very very good example here. You see this picture that I'm sharing on my screen. It belongs to a lady called Shrishti, who is an HR professional. And I recently posted this picture with a post of mine on LinkedIn, which got over 80 to 90,000 likes within 2 days. And lots of people actually shared. They commented on that picture, that how it resonated with that, because people are getting sensitive to this struggle to cope with the pandemic. So work-life balance need to be really really maintained at this point in time. And last but not the least, employee self-accountability. See, in my past life, when I used to be a consultant, HR and leaders would often come to me with the question: how do we create a pull for learning? How do we create an organization where people demand to learn, not just technical stuff, but otherwise too? And in a normal condition, managers and HR, they push people to complete training hours. That's the reality. And people need to be pushed like a horse, literally, sometimes in some organizations. And HR, keeps sending reminders after reminders. Sometimes, people come and sit. Sometimes they listen. Sometimes they open their laptop in the training session, which is upsetting to the trainer. Different behaviors get exhibited. So if that happens in a normal situation, imagine what is going to happen now. Thus, employee ownership of their self-learning and self-development is more important than ever. And leaders will need to create a pull for learning rather than push it to their people. Now, with this context in mind, and there could be more than 5 changes occurring around us, but I could think of only these 5. I asked myself, how do I, as a learning leader, come up with a holistic learning strategy which works for the employees during COVID-19 and ensures that this environment, this context is taken care of? Because if I ignore it, I'll be ignoring my environment, which is a complete no-no for any learning strategist. Never ignore the environment of the learner. And how do I ensure that I'm allowing the employees and the leaders to communicate and interact with each other, and not just rely on online courses and LMS, because that's the first thing that people jump to? What kind of learning structure will keep them engaged, let them maintain a healthy work-life balance, and at the same time, hold them accountable also for their own learning in this VUCA environment? So with this being said, and keep this context in mind, let me propose an integrated people development framework, which I believe is going to be useful during this time. And we, in my organization, are already doing most of what I'm going to share right now. It's a simple framework. I know, I learn, I develop, and I connect. A 360-degree approach to people development, which covers almost everything that an employee needs to develop during COVID-19. But before I get into the details, let me ask you a question, and anyone can answer this question. I'm sure many of you have kids who go to school. So does a child learn only in school, is my question. And any of you can unmute and maybe share your views. What do you think?
So we
Do you
have a
think?
message from Nirpesh which says no.
No, absolutely. A child may learn only in school. And please, please try to understand what I'm trying to underline here. A child may learn only in school, but a child develops outside of school too. There is a very, very minute difference between learning and development, which sometimes get missed. Development is a broader context. Similarly, an employee may learn only through LMS and e-learning courses, but the development happens outside that framework too. And that's what we are trying to focus on. Rather, my view is that an organization which relies only on ILT and VILT, which is instructor-led training and virtual instructor-led trainings or courses, they're ignoring the full spectrum of people development and people learning. Development doesn't mean just LMS and e-learning. And that's what we are exploring through this framework. There's a flood of free courses outside, and there are people asking to take up those while they're working from home, and asking people to subscribe to the same courses, whether that's Harvard or Korn Ferry or LinkedIn courses or Udemy. That's a no-brainer. But developing employees beyond that is the real game today. So let me start with the first block, which is I know, and that is where I think everything starts. What do I mean by I know? I can easily find what knowledge I need to do my job and whenever I need it. Because please understand this, employees are staying at home, okay? It is really important that learning is catered to where they are based. And someone mentioned, I think Rakesh, it was yourself who mentioned that it is not working from home, but working from anywhere. So learning has to be anywhere. People need to find what is going to enhance their knowledge anywhere they are. And the biggest question here is the knowledge available in a form which is easily consumable by them, by the employees? It is rather more of a long-term strategy, because none predicted that whole businesses would go virtually overnight. But now when it is all virtual, how do we ensure that people can access knowledge of the organization? And it also provides an opportunity to organizations to structure whatever they have and place it on that consolidated platform, which is accessible. My organization already had a SharePoint as a knowledge management tool, on which we store knowledge and the learning resource, and people can access it anytime and anywhere. But in addition to that, we have our own internet, where we created a space, and that space is called Stay Connected, which works more like a social media, wherein people can post stuff online and they can create blogs. This gives people an opportunity to connect, talk to each other, share what they're thinking. Remember I spoke about the environment, where I talked about how communication is key and EQ is critical. People at this point in time want to connect with each other more. Rather, I disagree with the term social distancing. It is not social distancing, it is physical distancing. Because we are not distancing from each other socially. We are still connected on Facebook, we are still on Twitter, we are still connecting on this forum where about 70 people are here. We are still socializing. And a phenomenon is being observed these days, which people are talking about. People are talking about COVID-19 and they want to share what they know. Everyone wants to be an expert in COVID-19. And I'm going to call it CCD. It's called CCD, except there is no coffee in it, but it's called COVID Community Development. And that's the phenomenon we are experiencing. People are developing each other by lending support and sharing best ways to manage their lives around this time. They are volunteering to take sessions on mental well-being. That's happening in my organization. Stress management. I think someone mentioned that they want to know more about stress management. And all the other stuff which is important right now, which is building an internal knowledge resource within the organization, because that's what we want, right? So remember, none of this is leader driven. And that's the beauty of it. Real development is happening. People are developing each other. We just gave them a platform and we gave them a structure and certain cues. None is getting paid to post stuff on this, but people are really engaged on this platform, which is a testimony to its success. And along with that, we have created a space on one of the event management apps, and you can also explore that. It's called Attendify, Attendify, Attendify. This app lets you create events, and that event works like Facebook. Not as extensive and as exploited as Facebook is these days, but you can behave normally on that and share photos and blogs and whatever you are thinking. You can write posts and like and comment each other's posts and pictures. And it's wonderful to see how people are active on it. We had about 600 followers on that app page within 2 days without any internal marketing. So what did it take in terms of investment to ensure that people know what they need to learn and where is it based? We already had the tools with us. We just acted quickly and turned this crisis situation into an opportunity, to give people, to be more closely connected. Stop here for like, a couple of minutes, because I think I've said a lot, and see if you have any question before I move to it.
Hi,
So
Deepak.
Deepak, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Krishna, as we all know, we all are working from home. So most of the times, people say, mostly parents, that they can't work for these hours, but they are available at these times. And unfortunately, that time slots doesn't match with other team members. So in this situation, what could be the best practices to bring coordination and cooperation among entire team?
Sorry, who was that? Who asked this question? I'm sharing my screen, so was not able to see who was that.
Okay.
Krishna.
Hi, I'm Krishna.
Hi, Krishna.
As we all know that we all are working from home. So most of the times people say, mostly parents who are having children, that I'm not available at these times, but I'm available at these times. So at this situation, what could be the best practices to bring coordination and cooperation among all the team?
Absolutely. I think it's a wonderful question, Krishna. And this is, I think, more relevant for organizations which are spread across globally. So, I'll give you a very small example of my team. So my team has about 40 people, and all of them are based in different time zones. Some are based in APAC, some are based in EMEA, some are based in the US. So how do we collaborate? And especially, ensuring that people who are parents, who have kids to look after too, they are still able to contribute and connect. And at the same time, the time zones are not a challenge. And this is where I think a knowledge platform kicks in. Because if you, let's say, if you have to work on a file with 3 other people who are in 3 different time zones, what is the best way to manage that? To my understanding, the best way to manage it is upload a document to a place where real time it is updated, and the next person in the next time zone, whenever he or she wakes up, they can look at the updates, and they can then update the document. And we already have, when I talk about iConnect, I'm going to talk about a couple of tools like SharePoint, and Jive is there, which are beautiful tools. You can, and that's the kind of flexibility that they provide, which employees are looking for these days. Because remember, I mentioned at the outset that employers need to be cognizant of the fact that people are not just going to be working from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. The work needs to be spread out. So imagine a situation wherein I am waking up in India, I open the document and I update the document, I work on it, and I finish it. And when I'm sleeping, someone wakes up in the US and they open the same document, they see my updates, and they update the same document. And it's a chain, that we follow. So they wake up, I work, and when I sleep, they work. And that is something which needs to be maintained. And that is where, a knowledge and a sharing document actually is extremely helpful. Hope I was able to answer your question, Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Deepak, we have
This
more
is Shubhashish.
questions.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting.
Subhashish, if you can just hold for a while.
Sure.
We'll take your question next. So Deepak, can I ask you that, are you open to take questions, or are you done with the presentation so that I can switch the modes and allow, because there are a lot of questions coming on our social media as well. Okay, if you can stop sharing the screen, maybe we can take some questions. And Shubhashish, you are next. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi Deepak, this is Shubhashish from Kolkata as well. Deepak, my question is, right now we are all in home regarding the COVID-19 outbreak. So we are like having tied up with some official work and some personal work as well. In home, there is some different kind of work we have. So how could I manage the stage between like official work and personal work? It can be like, what kind of work-life balance we have to follow, like that. My question is that.
See, it is, I think, again, it ties back to my earlier, my earlier point around how is the environment changing. Okay, understand that the new normal which organizations are following now is that the 9 to 6 hour is gone. Understand that first. The work needs to be spread out. So I'll tell you how I personally manage my work, because I work, I have about 20 people who are spread across different time zones, and I being their leader, how do I ensure that I know that exactly who is doing what? Because after all, I need to manage their time and their productivity. I open my laptop around 1 p.m. Can you believe that? I open my laptop around 1 p.m. because before that, I am always busy with my child, because he obviously,
because I have a small daughter, so that's like the same thing happened on me actually.
Exactly. So I'm talking about real issue here. I'm talking about the real stuff, the way things happening on the ground. I open my laptop at 1 p.m. and I switch off my laptop whenever it is time for me to actually babysit my kid, or whenever I have to feed him, or whenever I have to, because I need to ensure that my wife is also getting the time to work. So imagine the complex environment in which I am operating. My wife has her meetings, I have my meetings, she has a team to manage, I have a team to manage, we have a child to take care of, and we have work. So we have fixed a schedule. I personally, like I said, I start work around 12:30 or 1 p.m. and I ensure that I am always connected on my phone for any emails, so that I am very, very prompt in terms of giving my responses, my replies to anyone who needs it. And in the night, whenever my child sleeps, I spend about 2 to 3 hours looking at any documentation or anything for which I actually need to open my laptop. So I open my laptop only for critical to do things, and the employer needs to understand that, and they respect that, fortunately. So hope I was able to answer your question.
Thank you, Sam.
Deepak, there is a question on our social media, FB Live. One of our viewers from Nigeria wants to know, what if the learning which one employee wants to do is different from the organization need? Somebody wants to learn something, an organization wants something else. In those situations, do you think that organization will be willing to support such employees to learn those skills they want to?
Absolutely, Govind. So I think my perspective on that is that right now the organizations need to focus more on what the employees need, because the business volume is low. There is more time available at hand. So more importance, I think 60 or 70% of the of the courses, so to say, or the conversation or the development plan which needs to build on, they need to keep in mind what sort of development the employees need. And I can share a very good example here, that we in our organization, we have looped in directors and senior directors, and we have asked them to volunteer to take topics like stress management, how to lead health and well-being. And these directors, they are talking to the employees on a one-on-one basis, and through different town halls and forums. And they are talking about what the employees need and what the employees need to develop at this point in time, because it is not about the present situation. It's about the future, what the world will be like in 2021. And all of us, the organization as the employees, need to think about what's going to be the world like in to sum it all up. I think they are best if they start focusing employees need now in terms of their mental well safety, and how the work environment is going to be looking like in 2021, and focus on that.
Great, Deepak. Thanks. And I'll just give you a small rest for 2 minutes and go to Mandeep. There's a question again for you, Mandeep, if you can answer it quickly. It says that there are people working 24/7 nowadays, and it is leading to stress. What are your inputs to mitigate that?
Hello. And I'm very concerned to hear that there are. Can you hear me, COVID?
Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear.
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned to hear that there are people who are working 24/7. Nobody can do that, And I think it is important to have boundaries, to have norms, and I spoke about it earlier also, to have rules about working from home. You've got to bucket time related to working, rest, time out, because if you're not doing that, it's every employee's responsibility to first do that themselves, and then take care of their teams if they are managers. It's very, very important to do that. So the decision lies in your hand, how you plan and bucket it as such.
Yeah, thank you. All right, moving back to you, Deepak. There's a question from Mahesh, and he says, what are the IT tools that an HR should be equipped with during this period? I'm assuming he's referring about learning tools, but
yeah,
feel free to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think there are a few tools that you can go back and research on. I think these have been very, very useful to us in my organization. One definitely is Salesforce. Salesforce is an excellent tool when it comes to knowledge management. And I think organizations are, they should explore this tool more now, in terms of how do they store all the knowledge which is getting generated out of all the talks or seminars or webinars or all the kind of sessions which are happening within the organization. Because the kind of situation that we are seeing, imagine if the same situation happens 20 years from now. Imagine that. So the accumulated knowledge is going to be useful for an organization which wants to actually come out successfully and wants to really focus on people development. How are people going to develop it if there is no knowledge management tool? So Salesforce, I think, is one. Second is collaboration tools. Very, very important these days. And there are two collaboration tools which I can mention right now off the cuff, which is SharePoint and Jive. SharePoint, I think most of the people already know. But Jive, I don't think that most people know. Jive is an excellent tool. It is integrated on Microsoft Outlook. The moment you upload anything, the moment you make any change in an Excel file or any document, it is uploaded, it is saved in the cloud server of Microsoft right away. So, the example that I was giving earlier to, I think, to Krishna, if you want to, work from home, and if you have, teams which are spread out globally, and if you want to collaborate with that, you got to have at least SharePoint or Jive. Obviously, needless to say that investment goes in this, and that's where I think, organizations need to think about where do they want to invest. But I think these are excellent tools. And apart from that, I think there are LMS, which are now almost in every organization, which is like a basic need. We personally use Cornerstone within the organization, but there are, different LMS. Attendify is one app which I mentioned. So you can, obviously take a look at all these, tools, which I think, are very, very useful to HRs these days.
Awesome. Thank you, Deepak. And we only have 5 minutes, guys, to this call. And there are so many questions. Honestly, I don't think we'll be able to cover all of them. So Deepak and Mandeep, if you don't mind, we would like to send these questions based on whether they are connected with engagement or development to you guys. And if you can help us to answer them, we would like to take those answers back to to the group who have asked it. Will that be okay?
Of course. Pleasure.
But there is a last question, Deepak, I would like you to take. And this question is coming from Aneri, and Aneri has raised his and her, I don't know, I couldn't figure out from the name, was a guy or girl. Aneri, would you like to ask your questions? And Deepak, if you can be brief to answer that would be awesome.
Sure.
You can unmute yourself, Aneri, and ask the question.
Yeah, okay. First of all, yeah, I'm a female. So,
Okay,
Deepak, my question is, you mentioned about the framework of learning and development. And my question is that how do you actually implement and motivate your employees to walk through this framework? Because companies already have a knowledge system in place. They have tools in place where employees can access them. But still, employees need to be motivated to actually go to that tool and start learning. So the implementation is my question.
Yes, Aneri. So you asked me a question which, like I mentioned at the outset, a lot of HR professionals, L&D professionals have. And your question is more of, related to the learning culture, and is the organization a learning organization or not? And let me tell you, let me not, hope my answer does not break your heart, but it's actually a trick which only a few people have been able to crack, how to make that pull effect happen in the organization so that, people ask for learning, not just technical, but behavioral also. And I'll give you a couple of tips here. First of all, why do people love to go on Facebook? And why do people have to be asked to take up courses in an organization? There's a big, human factor difference there. And the biggest human factor difference between Facebook and an organization's LMS is that LMS does not give chance to people to interact and collaborate with each other, which Facebook does. On Facebook, it's a simple trick. You post a picture, you get 100 likes, you get motivated to do more of it. LMS does not do that, right? Our online courses don't do that. So imagine, you, Aneri, maybe, you can take this up within your organization as a new project. Think of, a course which at every step, people can collaborate. And I'm talking, more from the perspective of gamification.
Right.
Think about, how PUBG works. People collaborate and they, solve a mission together. They get motivated to do something. You turn PUBG into a learning assignment and then see. The views and the reviews, will shoot up they will go through the roof. That was, one example that I shared with you. Second is, I think learning and development, and I completely believe in this, is 50% marketing and 50% strategy. And where people actually miss, the learning professionals, is that they complete 50% of the learning coursework. They create a beautiful strategy, but they fail to market it well.
Yeah.
And marketing has to happen, through people, through leaders, engage people. Imagine, you can answer this yourself. If your CEO asks you to take up a course, will you do it or not? But if your buddy asks you to do a course, what is the percentage of chance that you will complete that course or not. So imagine if your CEO is interacting with you over a learning coursework, and if a CEO is motivating you, and that's where, I talked about the whole learning organization and the whole learning culture. You will, you get my point. So, I mean, it's a tough nut to crack, because creating a learning organization is not easy. We in our organization are also, somewhere reaching there. Yeah.
So I think
Thanks.
Anari
Thanks, Deepak.
has actually tried to address the elephant in the room, because there's a lot of HR professionals, especially L&D, go through that. So great question, Anari, and good to know you in person. Now, with that said,
Govind, I wanted to give another perspective to Anari's question on this.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So when you log into Netflix, what do you see on the menu? You see movies you've seen, movies that are recommended to you based the choice that is there based your past history, movies which are new. So that platform knows you in and out as a customer and ensures that you are interested to log in again. Learning today is about that. And we have enough applications through artificial intelligence where once they know about, for example, you as an employee, what is your interest in terms of your career pathing or your next prospective roles, it will always throw all the required skills which are critical today. It can throw up options which are there for you in a very cognitive thinking way. It is a career coach for you, the AI automation which is there in it. So it provides input to you, which makes you as an employee understand why is it important, when do I have to do it, where will it give me an opportunity to move next. So today there are enough and more augmented applications which augment what we as learning and HR professionals do, which help us build careers and skills for people. So I just wanted to share that in addition to what Deepak shared.